Ripley, moving up around Highway 15. Tip Electric is doing a really phenomenal job keeping us in contact and doing, exactly what they need to do. A couple of things I want to talk about Tip Electric is whatever you do, make sure that if you're running a generator, make sure that it's vented properly. And also, if you're running a generator, make sure your main breaker is thrown on your house. We don't want to backfeed and hurt the lineman for sure. The Highway 4, Highway 15 roads are open. There's the secondary roads that are starting to be open right now. National Guard is starting to move into our county. That has happened late this evening. And we have a warming centers in 4 areas of the county now. One is going to be at Walnut. One is going to be at Blue Mountain, Faulkner, and Dumas. And a 5th is going to be a FEMA Red Cross shelter. If you need to stay sheltered overnight, you need to come to the American Red Cross shelter. It's going to be at the First Baptist Church, Ripley, and they're going to be doing feeding and sheltering of our citizens from now on out.
So you said, again, this has been a warming shelter and now upgraded to a Red Cross shelter. And give that location one more time, just in case someone missed that.
Sure. It's going to be at the Ripley First Baptist Church. I wish I had the address. I apologize for not, but you can Google that. Ripley First Baptist Church is going to be the shelter opening at 7 o'clock tonight. 7 o'clock.
Okay. One of the things that I think folks are still, obviously everyone wants their power back on. Have you guys had any issues now with water in your county like some other folks have had in the last couple of days? I think last time we talked, things largely gotten under control with that. Is that still the case?
Well, one of the things, we live in a very rural area. We have a lot of rural water departments, and we're having a lot of issues with still no power to those facilities. We're bringing in at least 10, if not more, generators to try to get water restored to the county. We're working through that as we speak right now. Try to get water restored back to Tippah.
10 generators is a lot. Sourcing especially 10 generators and then moving them there, it can't be a quick process.
Right. It's logistically, it's pretty difficult. We're having 6 come out of MEMA, Jackson, Mississippi. 4 is going to be from the Army Corps of Engineers, and maybe actually even more. They're really pushing the generators hard, getting them hooked up. It's a little bit time consuming. Logistics is a little bit of an issue with the roads that we have, but we're getting it done. It's starting to happen.
Okay. And, so do we feel like the number of calls you're getting to try to come out and get people out has reduced? Because I know for a while, and certainly on Facebook, folks are like, hey, we're still here. We're having a hard time getting out where we're at. Have those calls started to diminish somewhat?
I don't believe so, but one thing we're going to do to remedy that issue is we're bringing in the National Guard. They're setting up tonight. Tomorrow, we're going to try to have them out, and we're going to start finding those people that need help, try to get them out of their houses. We're going to send the National Guard in because they have the vehicles, the Jeeps to crush through this ice and get to exactly where we need to go. We're going to bring in maybe 10 Jeeps from the National Guard and set up a nerve center and to try to get them people from their residence to the shelters.
Okay, I know that will make a big difference. I know that's welcome news to some folks there, especially in the rural parts of the county where I'm assuming the roads are still terrible if you get past, some of the main highways there. And have we finally stopped dropping trees at this point, I should ask? My ice is mostly melted here north of the Tupelo area off of the trees. Have we gotten to the point where the less of those limbs and stuff are falling?
Yes, sir, I believe so. I think we're in the recovery phase right now for sure. Response and recovery for sure. We're still in response phase. Recovery's coming on pretty good. Like for instance, tomorrow we're going to have 4 helicopters flown out of Jackson. We're going to be bringing in cases of water, cases of MREs, and that'll be arriving in the morning and then some in the evening too as well. So relief is coming. It's slow, but it is on the way.
Absolutely. Tom, anything else you want to add? Because I know it's been a really long day, and then on top of your day, I make you come on here to talk about this, but anything else you want to add?
No, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Matt.
Well, thank you so much. Tom Lindsay again with the Tippah County Emergency Management Agency. Join us here on Mississippi Live on this Wednesday evening. Again, one of the things Tom said, again, the Red Cross shelter now open there in the Ripley area at the First Baptist Church. And if you're able to watch us, we can safely say you still have at least some internet. So if you Google First Baptist Ripley, you'll be able to find that location coming up. We're going to speak to the folks in Panola County here in a couple minutes as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
Out with the old and in with the new. It's time to save big at Room to Room's New Year's sale. Store-wide markdowns 50 to 70% off. No tax. 48-month special financing. It's a new year at Room to Room Furniture in Tupelo. There's no place like home.
When you've been injured, don't settle for a lawyer who doesn't even know where you live. Call Langston and Lott. Local lawyers, personal service, real results.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lovhawn.
Warmer temps certainly helping things out today. For some folks, helping to thaw more and more. Ackerman right now, 46 degrees and a sunset that looks fairly normal for what we'd expect here in the month of January. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lovhawn in the Room to Room Weather Center. And that is not necessarily the case for locations to the north and west. We go to Panola County. Our camera there with North Mississippi Storm Chasers is operational once again. But as you can see, the roads still problematic, and that might be a kind way to put it there. Not as problematic maybe as they were 24 hours ago, but certainly things hopefully getting a little bit more, I guess it's a long ways from back to normal as power outages remain. It's still a significant issue there. I have Tippah County behind me, but next to me here, I have the Panola County Emergency Manager. Thank you, David, so much for joining us here on Mississippi Live Weather today, as we're, obviously trying to look at, the recovery efforts across North Mississippi. Whoop. We might have lost him there. We'll see. There you are. You're back. How are things going out there as of Wednesday evening?
We're steadily making progress. There's still a lot of power outages, but both Energy and TVA are working around the clock, doing everything they can do. The county's brought in some contractors to assist with pushing the roads, trying to get them clear of debris, which does two things. It helps clear the road of debris, trees and limbs, so on and so forth. And it allows the energy crews to access the areas that they need to get to faster. The last 2 days, we've had 18 crews in addition to our county work crews and all the local volunteers who are out doing everything they can do to help.
I mean, go ahead.
Your camera a while ago had the Highway 51, which is somewhat accessible. I-55, still, I wouldn't get on I-55 for anything right now. It's still, we've been detouring traffic, stopping all 18-wheeler traffic. We had a lot of people stuck on the interstate last night because of the 18-wheelers, and we had to get out and we had to provide some fuel for some and had to figure out a way to get some out. The Highway 51 and Highway probably the two best roads in our county. If you get off those two roads out in the rural areas of the county, it's still thick ice.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm looking at this shot here on the camera there, and again, internet is spotty still at that point. I'm sure you're running into that, with all the utilities struggling at this point here. But those roads are definitely icy, and they're going to go to a straight sheet of ice here in the next couple of hours again as you refreeze. There's just so many barriers that you have. You mentioned energy, trying to get more and more of the power, on across sections there of Panola County. Have you heard any time frame where more of the citizens is most of Batesville still it's kind of in flux at this point, right?
Yes, sir. It is. they have gotten a good bit. TVA has done well trying to get some of the grocery stores and gas stations and different places back online. There's been a few residential neighborhoods come back online. We still got a lot of places in Batesville that are not back on, but they're working, like I said, they're working very diligently to get them back on. You know, the rural areas of the county still have a lot of power outages. There's very few. I mean, the northwest corner of Panola County wasn't hit as hard, but the rest of the county is still dealing with a lot of power outages.
Have you run into issues like this before, where you've had just something that's on this kind of widespread of a scale?
We've had a lot of tornadoes. It wasn't working emergency when we had the ice storm of '94. I hadn't long graduated high school, to be honest, but I remember it, and that's the last thing I remember of this magnitude as far as a countywide event with county.
Oop. Daniel got a phone call. That happens from time to time. You're just fine. Don't worry. We'll wait for him to come up here again. There you are. So can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hello?
Sorry, you cut out for just a second there. I'm assuming it was a phone call. Has your phone stopped ringing over the last few days at all?
No, sir. I've got probably 102 voicemails that I've not been able to get to, and just added to that. But it's constant, and it's 24 hours a day.
So at this point, warming shelters in your county, where can people find those? And have you had a lot of people needing help being transported to those?
Yes, sir. I'll just be quite honest. We have two. We started them out as warming shelters. We actually started out with 6 warming shelters throughout the county. But when they lost power to sustain 6, we've got 2 right now. Had power restored last. The other is still running off generator. But it's also got LP gas. So, long story short, we've got those 2. We've got about 150 people in shelter. We're contemplating opening a 3rd shelter because folks were able to manage for the first 24 hours or so. But now the gas is running out. The battery backups on their oxygen machines are running out, and we're trying to find a place for them to go. We're pretty taxed, a couple spaces for that, but we're managing. We've got some requests in, some manpower help and different things. We did get a few supplies delivered today by helicopter from NEMA. They're doing all they can do to help us, and it's not just us. I mean, this is multiple counties by this, and just being patient and waiting our turn and doing what we can for ourselves. We had 4 structure fires in the county since this started. 2, unfortunately, we were not able to get to because of down power lines and trees and road conditions. I wish that this had not happened, but it has. We've had several medical calls that we couldn't get access to. It took hours to get people out. I'm not going to say that there's still not people that cannot access their roads in Panola County. I'm telling you that there's not many. We are working on it.
When you hear the reports from the fire marshal of, some of the house fire fatalities that we've had around the state, it's just, how blessed that there haven't been. I mean, up the road in Tate County, obviously, so our hearts go out to those folks that did have that happen where folks died in house fire. There's just so many layers in which this could go wrong. And I think just very fortunate that y'all, with those number of house fires, have not had that. Any recommendations to folks still, again, trying to keep warm and don't have power, and might just have clicked this on just at the last second?
Just please stay safe. If you don't have heat, with the temperatures that we've had and the temperatures we've got coming this weekend, and the short supply of propane and gasoline, please don't take chances. If you know you need to somewhere, get there. If we have to open up another shelter somewhere, we'll find a place. Please just don't wait to the last minute and get in a bind. We've had that happen, and we have struggled out of where they were. We've gone on ATVs. We've had personal equipment owners bring personal equipment out, all to help get to people in need. And please, I know we're not expecting the snow and the ice this weekend, but it's going to be frigid from everything we're seeing. And please don't wait. Let us know in advance. Let us help you get prepared and be safe.
You hope after the situation where folks maybe were prepared and now stuck, that hopefully, as we say, teens for Lowe's on Saturday and Sunday morning, and they've been through that earlier this week, that they probably don't want to go through it again, and maybe they'll take your recommendation there and get those warming shelters, certainly when we get to the weekend, before we get to that point. Anything else you want to add, Daniel?
No, sir. Just thank you, and thank you for what you do. And
I appreciate
you to
it.
Panola County and all. I was just wanting to also say thank you to Panola County and all the citizens. Thank you for being understanding, and know that that we're doing all we can do. And if you need anything, just reach out.
Okay, it's Daniel Cole, the emergency manager there in Panola County. Thank you so much for talking to us here on Mississippi Live Weather. And like I think I said on the phone before, if you ever have a scenario you need to hop in when we're in severe weather coverage, you just give me a phone call if you think it'll save a life there in Panola County. I appreciate it. Okay, so as we go back to our camera here in Panola County, in Batesville, again, the roads in northwest Mississippi remain very, very rough, and temperatures will remain pretty cold. And so the threat remains, again, for problems related to that over the course of the next couple of days. And in particular, look at some of those low temperatures that are going to be down into the teens. We'll look at that in more detail here in just a moment. Mississippi Live Weather Radar, Mama Justice Doppler radar, no real issues at this time. And the temperatures already dropping down in the 30s up here for locations in Marshall County, back toward around Hernando there, 40 degrees Water Valley. We did make it much warmer closer to the Golden Triangle, with a lot of upper 40s out there for some of those spots. I want to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, who's been looking at this. And then, Gabe, as we look toward the forecast for the weekend, obviously the very cold temperatures remain one of the big concerns.
Oh, there we go. I apologize. I had my mic off behind the scenes, but I was watching all of this happen and just talking to the EMA directors and hearing about the damage. Cold is the big concern heading into the next couple of days. Big reason why. Look at the difference in temperatures. I'm not going to stay on this too long, but we're talking in those areas that still have those snow and ice covered grounds being a notable difference from the rest of the area. 40 in Fulton, 36 up around Boonville, 39 over there towards Pontotoc. It's 33 in Ripley, 40 in Water Valley, 33 Holly Springs. So the areas that have seen the snowfall, that's basically reflecting all of that sunshine that's trying to get to the surface and not allowing it to warm up during those afternoon hours. And that is a reason why we're still seeing this in the forecast. Luckily, it has started to climb, and these warmer temperatures will be the difference whenever we're talking about some of that snow and ice going away and leaving us with a much better pattern getting into the extended forecast. Now, tonight, we are watching the possibility of freezing fog once again as those temperatures dip below freezing and that moisture still remains overhead, and those winds remain non-existent. And Futurecast will show exactly that as we get into our Wednesday night, still seeing those mostly clear skies. But you see this cloud cover that just basically builds right overhead towards Cleveland, Shelby, and Clarksdale? That's that area of freezing fog that is possible. And with it being in an area that already has a ton of snow and a ton of ice, that is going to add to what is already concerning travel conditions. So make sure to drive with caution, or if all possible, don't drive at all. And that continues to be in the forecast as we get into our Thursday, as roads still remain in hazardous conditions. I mean, it's just awful seeing the pictures coming out of there along I-55 and for folks out there towards the west and up there north of 22. Nonetheless, travel still not advised, and we do recommend you staying off the roads for now as crews get out there to clear them. Thursday morning still going to be a mostly cloudy start with those foggy conditions as well. Low temperatures in the teens for Senatobia, Holly Springs, and Corinth, 20 in Houston and Tupelo, and 22 towards the Golden Triangle. That wind chill, like I mentioned, not going to see much of it due to the lack of winds in the forecast. So that's going to be one positive with this already cold forecast. 21 degrees by pickup, 46 there towards drop-off. At 46 is a blessing because it's going to melt out some of this ice. As we were just outside today, my wife and I just going around town, we're just seeing ice fall left and right. And it was such a welcome sight because we want all of that ice to clear on out. It's had its time here in Mississippi. It's not meant to have ice stick around for too long. As we keep that futurecast moving throughout our Thursday, you can see how we do have this system that starts to move in off there towards our west, out there towards Arkansas. Now, this system is one to pay attention to because getting into our Thursday night and Friday morning, that's where we could have the potential of some precipitation and some of that, unfortunately, being a few flakes in that forecast. Now, Thursday by mid-morning, we continue to see that system move in behind this high-pressure center. That's going to continue to build into the area as we get into our Thursday afternoon, making for a little bit more saturated conditions, but also a little bit more of those warmer temperatures. So we'll keep those warmer temperatures around into our Thursday. We'll see that in just a moment. But watch how this low pressure center starts to build into Arkansas. And one of the questions yesterday was the positioning of this low. And what we'll take a look at coming up at 6 o'clock is going to be our snow finder, ice finder, rain finder, and assessing where those chances are and how there is a limited potential at a few flakes, but no impacts are expected within that system. Here's a look at 5 o'clock, and you're getting some of that moisture out there towards Oklahoma and Texas, building back behind that low and really right along that cold front towards the south. That's going to continue to move into our forecast by Friday. We'll look at that here in just a moment. High temperatures Thursday with us being in the warm sector. Temperatures in the 50s, not out of the question towards Kosciuszko, Grenada, Eupora, Louisville. But I know 44 Boonville, Corinth, and Iuka is definitely a site that folks up there want to see. 45 in Senatobia, same thing there towards Cleveland. So slowly but surely knocking that ice and knocking that snow out of the picture. But as we get into our Thursday night, and we're going to continue to keep it on an expanded look as this moisture builds into North Mississippi. Big question is, how quickly do things cool off once that moisture does move into the area? But what we're going to start to get is some of this light rainfall moving in by 10 p.m. That's going to be crossing into the river, and that's where we're going to get those chances into the forecast. Now, models still have some questions in regards to the positioning, but all of them at least showing some type of moisture trying to get into North Mississippi. So as we get into our Friday morning, I know what you're seeing. You're seeing a lot of that pink there, and that's synonymous with what we had this past weekend. Not exactly. Impacts are not going to be nearly as extensive as this is pretty much a non-impact event, but what it will give us is a few flakes, and what we'll see later on at 6 o'clock with our ice finder is just how much ice are we expecting in the forecast. Unfortunately, it's none. It's going to be more of those flakes and that rainfall as we get into that Friday morning forecast. Now, temperatures, they will be cold enough, but with how light of that precipitation we're talking about, not exactly going to accumulate too much on the ground. I would say if we're going to get anything, it's just a light dusting with some of those flakes sticking around. But 28 degrees Tupelo, 25 Water Valley, 29 Clarksdale, and then low 30s Greenwood, Belzona, and Kosciuszko. It is still a possibility, but like I mentioned, we're not expecting an impactful event, and definitely nothing near the magnitude of last week. And I know a lot of folks, sensitive to that right now as they are in recovery mode, just trying to get all that figured out and get back to a sense of normalcy. I don't want you to be alarmed by this, but the chance at a few flakes, don't be surprised if you see some flakes in that forecast moving into Friday morning.
And we're going to be cold, but that is one of the, I guess, relatively speaking, a milder morning for that. So again, Northwest Mississippi, where they've already been hard hit, most likely to have some kind of light impact from this. We're hopeful that's all the farther it goes, but I mean, it's really what's behind it with the cold air that's the bigger impact. So I think the big thing, like Gabe said, could you see flakes? Could you see something? Yes, but this is, if what we just experienced was a 10, this is a 1. Right, that old snow scale I used to show back at the station. If the last one was a 9 or a 10, this one would be, a 1 on that. So very minimal impacts. I do think, some flakes would be possible, but yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. And the cold behind it is still the big story as the system rolls on through. Because if you look to the south, I mean, we do have a cold front that's moving right through North Mississippi, and the cold front bringing in that colder air from the north and west, and that's going to cycle in right behind this system, drying us up, but giving us those extremely cold temperatures like we're talking about. But Matt, a big note in that forecast that you just talked about, a milder morning for our Friday morning, and I think that's a great thing to point out. The thing that I was trying to mention was it's cold enough for if any of these flakes were to form, maybe getting that, dusting there on the ground. But you're exactly right. Some of the warmest morning temperatures we've seen in quite some time, and that is definitely a welcome sight. The unfortunate part is it's not sticking around. As that low clears on out, by the time we reach our Friday afternoon, those temperatures will already take a significant dip. And as we get into our Friday evening hours, that cloud cover will clear out and leave us with a little bit more of those cold temperatures. Now, we're talking about a few flakes, and it's not impossible at all to get some of those flakes working into our Friday night and continuing into our Saturday morning. But by then, some questions in regards to how much moisture is in the air. That's still a concern because typically behind those cold fronts, drier air does filter in. And, it's not impossible we get some of that wraparound moisture, but I would say if we're going to get a dusting, that higher likelihood is going to be for Friday morning compared to Friday night.
Now, I might disagree with you a little bit there because sometimes you get, again, the snow ratio, right? When you're right at 32 or something like that, you get the heavy wet snow. Because we're going to be so cold, you can sometimes squeeze and wring an extra little bit more out of the atmosphere in that case. So again, I don't know that in either case we're talking about much more than a dusting, but there will be some flakes late Friday night, early Saturday that fall, but they just might be really, really small, picturesque ones more than anything else. Of course, I'm sure that's a picture that somebody'd like to throw in the trash after what this week has been.
And trends still not exactly, it's trending up, I will say that, because 24 hours ago we weren't seeing anything close to this as we got into our Saturday morning or Friday night, Saturday morning. So this is something we're paying attention to fine tune. But yes, flakes possible, perhaps a dusting, but I still don't see any significant impacts whenever we're talking about comparing one event to another. This is going to be very much on the lower end of the scale compared to last week being a 10 basically. High temperatures on your Friday. Like we mentioned, the air will be cold enough getting into our Friday night with 37 in New Albany, 41 Amory, 44 Starkville, and 39 there towards Greenwood. It is going to be a cold afternoon, but yes, as we get into those chances, and we were talking 20% Friday, and then I was debating on upping this to a 20%, stuck at a 10 because I need to see a little bit more consistency, but something we're paying attention to getting into those Saturday morning hours. Beyond that, increased chances of moisture by Tuesday and Wednesday. We do expect the midweek system, but the timing, still trying to line that up a little bit more in detail. But Friday and Saturday, that continues to be some of the questions getting into our forecast. At 6 o'clock, we're using our Mississippi Live Weather exclusive product that will showcase Rain Finder, Snow Finder, and Ice Finder, and how those chances fare with North Mississippi getting into our Thursday night and Friday morning, and then that secondary wraparound moisture as we get into our Friday night and Saturday morning. So paying attention to all of that in more detail coming up on Mississippi Live Weather at 6. Also tracking that extreme cold for this weekend as temperatures drop into the teens for low temperatures. 14 Saturday morning, 12 Sunday morning, and high temperatures going to be an extended period of time once again where we are not getting above freezing. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, things definitely get more mild, and we are excited for that forecast. Just a few hurdles we have to get through before we can enjoy it. Of course, Matt, I think this is about to be sent over to you, so if you want to take over here real quick and tease what's ahead, I'll go ahead and let you know that it is going to be our exclusive products here on Mississippi Live Weather that'll help us showcase this forecast in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, of course. Here, the next live show, again, going to be coming up at 6 o'clock. And as Gabe mentioned, we're going to break out all the finders to look and see what we can see. And what you'll probably, I have not looked at those. Gabe prepped that because I was listening to the governor's discussion during the last hour before we came up. And so he'll have a good look at those here in a minute. I want to prognosticate that they're not going to be particularly high on any of them. But we'll have a look at that come up at 6 p.m. I know a lot of folks very, very shaky after the weather that we already have in place, and the cold is there, and it's going to be bitterly cold and could be dangerously cold this weekend. Of course, more on all the above at 6.